Scene one, Apple, take one.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shane Borza. Welcome to another episode of Film Notes. This is the show where I talk to people in the industry about the industry, and we learn and get their notes on what they do, how they do it, and how you can learn from them. I have a new friend I just connected with, and we were just talking off mic. We're super psyched to talk to each other. Greg Schwab, who is a composer, and we're going to learn all about what he does, how he does it, and what he's learned along the way. So, Greg, thank you for being here today.
Well, thank you for having me, Shane. It's a real honor. Thank you. Thank you.
We were just talking a little bit. So you've got a lot of experience, like over 30 years, and you started to tell me like how you got here. So how did you end up in LA working in the industry? I know you came from somewhere else. I was like, hold that story because we're about to tell it on the camera. So tell me what you were just about to get into there a minute ago, how this all started.
Well, I was born in New York in the Catskills. I worked the hotels. My dad was actually an entertainer as well there. So I grew up around some of the best comedians the world has ever seen, Broadway players. Some of the greatest jazz musicians have taught me how just basically everything about music. My school was very musical orientated. And when I left New York, I applied to come out to Musicians Institute. They accepted me. And I packed my car up and came out here and spent a year locked in a room playing guitar for a solid year. And then, kind of ran into Eddie Van Halen, which was actually an honor at one point because he was actually an alumni a year before me, but we were warned never to talk about it. And we found out why, but that's a totally different story. And then as the years went on, I tried to be the rock star thing, doing all that. Of course, it never panned out because I always ended up working because I wanted to keep a roof over my head. And I wasn't really into the party scene and that whole thing, even though I kind of ended up in it. But it was more important for me to actually focus in on music and keep a roof over my head. And, I guess it was just because of my upbringing. I just, just a country boy out in the city now trying to survive Los Angeles, so, and basically 40 years later, here I am still standing, so.
And there's a lot of parallels and overlap between the different industries, like you mentioned in passing there. There's comedy, there's plays and live theater, there's music, there's film, and a lot of them integrate in each other. Okay. But they can also be very different. Films are going out on tour the way a musician does, or what have you. But we wouldn't have the bass under scenes if we didn't have music there to accompany it. So being a composer, how did you get into that from what sounded like you were doing first, which was like live music? Is that right?
Well, basically, yes. Well, we started off before basically computers and all the internet stuff anyway. So, obviously that's years ago. But on my very first guitar lesson, with my first year in guitar in high school, I wrote my very first song off of my very first lessons. I practiced and practiced and practiced, and I wrote a first song. Nobody's ever done that. And it was a 2-piece song, and I played that for an ensemble. And I've always written music from that point forward. I've always tried to learn other people's music, but I can never do that because every time I tried to learn their songs or do whatever it is they're trying to figure out what they're doing, I started writing something else. I heard something else in my head. And I said, no, I don't want to go in this direction. For me in my head, I want to go this direction because it doesn't feel natural. And if I didn't feel comfortable at it, I didn't go that way. I went the way my heart and what my mind and what I was hearing told me to go in that direction. So I never learned my favorite guitar players, guitar solos, or I learned a few songs here and there, and the ones that I could actually truly connect with, and actually feel. Even though I feel them when I'm listening to them, they can make me cry, or they make me laugh, or make me angry, or whatever. But I never wanted to sound like them, and I think that was my main thing because I noticed a lot of guitar players who are musicians overall who studied their favorite musician, their god, and they sound like them. They actually picked up on that, and a little bit of themselves come through, but you hear mostly their influence of where it comes from. And when I went to MI, one of the greatest compliments my teachers have always given me was that, one, they could always pick me out of a room of 1,000 guitar players. I just had this way of playing. I just didn't sound like everybody else. And it was just the way I attacked it because I wanted to be me. I wanted my own voice. And I wanted to I never learned how to sing. My dad was a singer, but I can't sing. I guess I can if I'm in the shower or whatever, when I'm by myself. But when I try to do it, it just does not come out. I need somebody else to do that. I just sing through my guitar and I sing through the music. But I always heard orchestral stuff because I had 2 years of theory in high school, another year going when I went to MI. But I always loved orchestral music. I loved the violins. I loved the orchestras. I grew up around big band. I grew up with jazz and progressive rock and all of that stuff. And that's all within my music. So I just wanted to combine every bit of it because I would hear, a lot of times I hear music in my head, but there's no guitar. And I'm like, well, how do I write this? And then, of course, when all these programs started coming out, I'm like, oh, this is how I could do that. And that's where I started putting in, going, okay, oh, I hear the string parts. Oh, I hear a full symphony, and I'll just start writing a full symphony or whatever it is I hear in my head. And that's basically how I really approach music, is that I hear it all the time. I rarely listen to it at all. And the only time I listen to it is when I'm in my car. I don't seek it out. Pink Floyd is like my favorite all-time band. I really wanted to emulate their sound and how you can get 4 people to sound like they're an entire world and an entire planet. And so I wanted to emulate that, which I think I accomplished in a lot of ways in some of my guitar work and some of my band work, which I couldn't really find too many musicians who wanted to do that because they wanted to be more popular. And I was never a popular songwriter. I write music. I want to tell stories. When I see something, I hear music. Like when I'm talking with you, I'm hearing music. I'm hearing a soundtrack to this in my head and where it needs to come in and where it weaves in and out and how it can accentuate what it is we're doing. Or with anything, I hear a car backing up, I hear a horn, I hear a bird, I hear the wind, and all of a sudden I'm hearing a symphony. And I'm like, and I'll come back in, sit down at my DAW, and just start writing what it is I just heard outside. And it's kind of a strange, I don't want to really truly ramble about that. I don't want to jump back and forth, but it's something I don't know if it's the universe, because you know how when sometimes it happens in film, it happens in everything, where you hear one song and then another song comes out and it's very similar. And then another one comes out and it's very similar. And it's the same subject matter and that whole thing. And it's like, how? And then I would write a riff. And then 3 weeks later, I'm hearing the song come out with a riff that I had just written that I have never heard somebody else play before, but I just wrote that riff. But somebody else was working on that riff at the same time. And the same thing with films, space movies come out and all of a sudden they all come out with the same theme, the same thing, horror, same difference. And I think we all hear this, and it's just a matter of who hears it more clearly, I guess, and then who could get it out there first and who has the means of getting it out there to be heard. And I think that's the biggest stumbling block we all run across. And that's been my biggest stumbling block, is that I always seem to run into the wrong places to get my stuff to be. It gets heard and it gets complimented and people love it. You're like going, wow, you're telling a story. And I'm like, yeah, but how am I not getting this to the right people? And that's still a mystery. And I can figure out a lot of things, but that's one thing I still yet to figure out. I've been on many sync sites. I have music all over the place. And yet maybe over the last 10 years, I've had 3, 4, things that I've had to do, a couple of things for a couple of students. I don't know if you had read for another one for, I'm spacing on the name of it, but the one with Ray Arthur had written that. And All the Good Things with Will Wheaton, which was, I don't know whether or not that was ever released, but when I hooked up with that, the funny thing about that is that when I ran into the director just by chance, just as I ran into you by chance. And he said, hey, you play guitar. He said, I have this thing I'm working on. And I said, yeah, sure. I could write some guitar stuff for you. So he gives me this tape and I listened to the tape. Yeah, cassette tapes before anything else, before even CDs. So I listened to the tape and I'm like going, but this is not what you described to me. And I'm listening to it and I'm listening to it and I'm like going, no. And I literally took the tape out and I literally threw it out. I threw it in the garbage. I'm like, no. And I started writing music. And I just picked my 12 string up and I just started doing, because he wanted this type of Nebraska kind of Southern type of blues. So I mixed my orchestral type of playing in with my 12 string and I came up with these pieces. He invites me to come down to his studio. So I'm sitting in his studio and he goes, "You listen to the songs?" And I go, "Yeah, I listen to them." I said, "Yeah." And so he goes, "Okay, well, let's see what you came up with." And I started playing and he goes, and he just gets this look on his face. And he's like, "All right, let's get the microphones hooked up and let's get you going." I'm going, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "You didn't listen to the tape." And I go, "Oh, actually, I did listen to the tape. I'm going to be honest with you. I threw it out and I wrote this." And he going, "I'm glad you did, because this is what I want." And because after watching his film, I'm going, I don't think this is what he's really wants, but I'm trying to get into his head, but I don't want to assume something for a director or for anything like that. I really did want to work with him, but I felt so hard that it was not right, that it turned out to be right what it is I did. And then when I did the thing with Sally Kirkland, I actually had the privilege of working with Ray Arthur Wong is his name. He's actually a concert pianist. And I was wondering why he wanted me to write, a guitarist, to write for his film. I'm like, dude, you could write your own stuff for this. What's going on? But he happened to be a big Pink Floyd fan. And I'm like, so we talked a lot about Pink Floyd and this whole thing. And I started getting a better idea about where it is he was trying to go with the film. And as I was watching it and he was describing things to me, I started writing piano pieces. He didn't ask me to write guitar. I just started writing piano, and I stopped myself in mid-composition. I stopped myself, and I go, "What are you doing?" He's a concert pianist. You're a guitarist. I think he's going to want to hear guitar. So I scrapped the whole thing, and I went into this thing, and I started writing his guitar, and he said he wanted something a little more upbeat and for this radio thing, and then something a little more orchestral on this other end. Which didn't involve guitar, so I was able to write some horn pieces, some string pieces for this. And then he actually put a little piano piece underneath that, which came out beautifully. And I haven't heard from him from years. Apparently he has some kids, and it's kind of dropped off the map a little bit. His social media kind of died off. I think he's just mainly concentrating on, he's a concert pianist, so he's probably on world tours constantly. So, and thus, here I am today trying to find somebody who, a director or anybody will go, "Dude, I really like the way you write." It's just like, that's the feel I'm looking for, or just come up with the right cue for somebody who going, "Yeah, that's the cue I need." So, but there's millions of us doing this, and AI is not helping our world out at all right now. But that's why I express the fact that, hey, this is human made. And even when I do use AI, that's on my if you watch my videos, the people are AI, but those are just my storyboards. So this is what I want it to look like. This is how I want the actors, and this is what the scene looks like. So let's get the actors, get everybody together, and now let's tell the story. Because I want people. I don't want AI involved with this. It could be involved with maybe mixing it down. That's not a problem. But I want to give an engineer that work. I don't want to give AI that work. But I don't have the money for that, but when I do, it will happen.
Two things at the top that I want to say. So I have a friend who is an audio engineer, and similarly, when you were talking about how you see in music, he was saying that one of the reasons he got into sound work is because he sees in sounds. And so quite often, and I would, we like to hike and do stuff together. And so quite often we're up at the top of a peak or something. We just hiked all day to get up there. And I'm looking, and I'll turn around and he's got his eyes closed and he's like listening to what it sounds like up there, because he knows what it sounds like to be at the base looking at the top, but he wants to really concentrate on what's it sound like up here. That place that was so far away, that's so high, that's so remote, it's going to sound so different than everything else. And that he calls it the unlock. Like, oh, I
Oh, that's interesting.
remember the sound, and then it unlocks the memory or the place for me. But he gets there through the sound, whereas I think most people, they look at a picture or something, and then that brings them there. So when you were talking about that, I was like, oh, there are these people out there. And this is why I love film. It's collaborative. You have people who are the sound geeks or the camera geeks or whatever, like they're the expert at this. And you tap into them being able to, like, you said that story about the, like that's kind of what I want. And you're like, that's not what you want. You want this. And he was like, oh my God, you just elevated the whole project. If you don't have an artist who can not only recognize that, like, I know what would make this better, or at least let me throw a suggestion your way.
Right.
Again, it's their project, but they're like, yes, exactly. This is what I needed. Thank you. We're going to go record right now. You can't get that from a machine, but you can use those machines as tools. Like, just like, we have easier lights and cameras than we used to have. Like, great. So we're using them to help us, but we don't want them to get in the way of that creativity or that collaboration of, like, we as a team are going to make more together because, we're here.
Yeah, the collaboration of what's going on, because the director is seeing the visuals of it. They when they put their place markers in, and like, okay, I want music from this, so they take the music. They don't want to pay for that music, and I get that. It's also written for something else, so they don't want that. But we want something similar to this. And you watch that, and you're going, yeah, I hear where you're going with that. And sometimes that kind of trips me up a little bit, because I will look at that, because when I have done that, and I did this with a student because she had place markers in her stuff. And I looked at it, and I was listening to it, and I going, I hear where you're going, and I see that. And since, do you want it to sound like this? Is this where you're going? If you could have this, and this was never used for anything else, is this what you would use? And that's my question to them. And if they hesitate, then I know that that's not where it is they're going. And even if they say, yeah, that's what I want for this. But if they're like, oh, no, if I could have this, this is exactly what I want over this. Then okay. And then I could step back from that, and I go, okay, I will write you something that is very similar to that, with the same cadences, with the same lifts and the same drops, exactly where it is you are talking about, using the same instrumentations of what they're using, because that's what you're hearing, because that's what you want. But I'm also going to throw in my style, because I am a musician and I'm an individual. So I have an individual style about how I do things. So I'm not going to sound like that, but I could get you something that does that. But if you want to allow me to give you other ideas, here, let me do this. She actually came over to my house. I asked her to come by. I said, okay, let's stop this going back and forth over the phone. Why don't you come by my studio, and let's just sit down here, and you just sit next to me. I'm going to pull up all these patches and all these things, and you tell me what you hear that you think that you may sound good, and I'll start writing things. And I wrote this one beautiful thing, and I watched the film back, and I'm like, oh my God, this elevated everything. And when she watched it, she's like, that's really good, except for one thing. And I'm like, what? Going, it's overpowering my visuals. And I'm like, you're right. But I can't say certain things. You're not allowed to say certain things, So I really wanted to say something. And I'm just like, and the thing I wanted to say, and I'm just going to say it, then make a better picture. Because if my music is too strong and it overpowers what your visual is, then your visuals aren't strong enough. And I do have a tendency of writing very heavy and very strong to elevate everything, because I want people to feel. I want you to feel the sadness. I want you to feel the tension. I want you to be hit in the chest. I want that to happen to you, no matter what's going on screen, because I want that elevated. I want to work with it and weave within the dialogue, weave within the whole thing, and how everything is approaching to the climax of the scene, and then back down again into the nice calm thing, to where you just shut up overall and let the scene take care of itself and let the dialogue take hold. And it's hard to be able to say that, because once again, you don't want to step on other people's shoes. But as you were saying, though, it's a collaboration, and it's a delicate collaboration, though, because more times than not, people look at musicians as in, it's my right to have your music. It's my right that I listen to music every single day when I wake up to the end of my day for everything I do, but yet I don't want to pay you, or I'm going to give you very little, or there's no budget for it. But that's the one thing that's going to make or break your film. A poor soundtrack to a great film will tank a film. A poor film with a great soundtrack could actually elevate it to where you could actually do something with it. And people go, okay, yeah, the soundtrack was great on this. And that's what kept me engaged with the film. And it will keep you going. But if you have a crappy soundtrack, once again, to a great film, it doesn't matter what's happening. That film is not going anywhere. And everybody's going to go, you know, that was a good movie. I love the acting. I did this. Cinematography was great, but the soundtrack was, it just didn't move me. Nothing happened. But when you have the two together, great filming and great audio and great soundtrack, there's nothing beats it, you know. And I was just watching a thing about the Odyssey of all things, about how they did this one. I forget what they call it. It's when the drums seemed like they were accelerating just forever. And there's a certain trick of doing that, phasing out one sound and continuing the other one and having it weave so it sounds like it's continuously moving up and up and up and up and up and faster and faster and faster without ever moving ever faster and faster. It's almost always at the same thing. It starts at 60, it ends at 1200, but at the same time, that's just an illusion to the ears and about how this composer did this. And it was fascinating when I watched it. I go, huh, that's a new trick. I'm going to have to try that one, you know. But when it comes down to that is sync houses, finding the sync manager or whoever it is, it's next to impossible. You know, I don't know how they're doing it. And like I said, I've been there forever. And so I'm going the other route. You know, I want to make my connections. I want to find that direction, find that producer, you know, and be a part of it from the very beginning. What are you writing? Oh, let me read that. Oh, I already hear something, but now I want to see what your visuals are about, you know, and start that way. And just instead of coming in at the end, okay, my film is edited and it's all done, I need a soundtrack. No, I think I should be there when you're editing so I can watch what you're doing, why, and see your thinking about where it is you're going and why you made that cut where you made that cut. Because my music wouldn't have made that cut. So I now have to rethink about where it is, what I need to do and how to approach that particular end of it to go on, okay, you cut someplace to where I thought maybe 15 seconds later it was supposed to happen, but it's not supposed to, and then I understand. Or the other aspect of why don't you cut it to the music and do it that way? And I know you're not making a music video, which actually brings me to a guy I used to work with a while back when I worked at this rental house. He was a director. I actually had played the devil twice for him. Actually, sorry, 3 times. And 3 of his films. And I don't know why he always cast me as the devil. I guess it was just my look or whatever. Actually, clearly one was a vampire. But anyway, he asked me to write him a whole bunch of just cues, just a whole bunch of cues. And he goes, I want to write to your music. I want to write my script and shoot to your music. So I wrote him all of these little things, but he ended up only doing a couple of things, never went anywhere. He ran on hard times. He moved out of LA. He's now in Georgia, has his own rental house, and he's kind of not directing anymore. And that gave me the idea of, you know, I would like to find somebody who would actually hear something and go, you know, when I listen to this, I see an entire scene and I want to film that, you know, but I don't want to tell people how to do this, you know, it's like, but to find that person, that connection, you know, I guess our soulmates within the world of entertainment and of creativity. I don't know where to find that person. But I also want to write to their stuff because I want to see a picture and I want to go, this is what I want to do. But I also want to write for games. I want to do gaming, you know, so it's like going, you know, when I listen to Halo, when I first heard Halo's music for that game, I'm like, why does it sound so empty? It just sounded lo-fi to me at first. And it took me a while. And even still today, I would still listen to it not going, he was doing this on the old string patches and everything from the old days. And he never changed that. And I'm like, And now I understand why. And it took me like a decade to like truly understand why. But I love the soundtrack, but from his choir, from the male choir to his just overall theme song of that whole thing. But it's so sparse in a lot of ways. It's not really thick, but it works so well. And so I had to learn to pull myself back. I overwrite, and then I'm pulling back layers. I'm pulling out instruments. I'm pulling everything out because now I'm going, and that's what made me understand that you overwrite, and then as opposed to a lot of people underwriting. And I think it's harder to underwrite and then try to build on top of that than to overwrite, because you could always, okay, let me pull this track out right here. This track doesn't need to be here because it's stepping all over this part anyway, and you're not going to miss it. You can't hear it really, and it's really in the background, and the volume's going to be low. You'll never even hear it. And then I had to start thinking about it in live applications. What if a symphony was playing this? What if I was playing this live? How would you do this? You only got 4 people, or if you have a symphony, you have 50 people, and who's doing what and where. So what are you hearing? What are you not hearing? And that also taught me on how to pull things out. So, and that's a piece that I'm working on right now. And I haven't done guitar work for a little bit because I end up orchestrating a whole lot of stuff. I'm working on this one piece for somebody wants a horror thing. I'm applying for it. We'll see what happens. It's some thrash metal, death metal thing, but he doesn't want vocals to it, thank God. And so I started writing it, and I started overdoing certain things. And I'm like, no, just pull it back. It's a 3-piece, just bass, guitar, and drums. That is all you got to do. And so between the rock, jazz, and all of this, and my orchestral and music theory, which I never think about anymore. In fact, I haven't thought about theory in probably about 30 years. I think I just do it naturally because I hear it up here. I hear the piece. I just have to figure out, well, what am I doing? What is that? Not what I'm doing, but how do I do that? How do I make that sound? How do I do this? So I literally have like 10,000 sounds that I got to search through just to find those one things. But I do this for myself, and I don't want to be doing this myself anymore. And I think that's my big thing right now, where I'm standing. But that's how my approach the music and the whole overall industry. I've always worked in it. My last job, the owner of the company knew I was a composer, but they didn't want me leaving the position that I was in because I was too good at it. And working in a warehouse and busting your butt all day long and being the only person and being the quickest and knowing the knowledge of the lights, the cables, everything. I used to do all of that. I mean, it's like going, do it all by myself, load the trucks, unload the trucks, do all that. But he would never move me on or suggest, hey, my guy is a composer. Why don't you do? Never did that once. Not one of them have. And it's not because, you've heard my music. At least I believe you have. And it's good. I feel it's good. Yes, maybe some of my mixing could definitely be a little bit better. But overall, the quality is definitely broadcast ready, and it definitely has a sound and has its own, but he would never put me there because he was afraid of losing me from that point. So I would always end up doing things for other people and not for myself. And now I'm doing this for myself so I could do for other people. Instead of busting my butt for them, I want to give them what I'm good at, what I am, and what I do. I not only see things, I have stories I want to tell. I have Vormond. I don't know if you had seen that on my YouTube. That's a story that I've been working on. All my music is actually based off of this one character, Vormond. He's a ancient warrior who's just going through life, and he's a guardian, and he protects and he watches over people. Doesn't really get involved with a lot of stuff, and just watches over. And when something does happen, you don't want to make him get up and fight because it's the last thing in the world you want to do. I have another story where it's called Welcome to Pineville. It's actually based off of a train set that I built for my son when he was young, and I built this entire thing on my floor of my living room. And it's actually a story about aliens, a guy who was prospecting, who almost died. The alien saved his life. The the guy saved that life, and this happened like in the 1800s. But there's Yetis, there's aliens, there's a few other things, and it comes all the way up to present time to where it's this community that's hidden from the rest of the world. And the only reason why the aliens are here is because a certain fungus grows there, and they're harvesting it because they sell it to other beings out there. And so, and it's a really weird, quirky story that is actually narrated by one of the workers and the actual Yeti, because they talk to each other. And this smart ass alien. In fact, all the aliens are smart asses. You know, I don't know if you ever saw Resident Alien. It's similar to that. You know, and I love the horror stuff, and I love the stuff that you do. And I always love those type of campy horror films, or just the overall action. I love B films. I just love, especially sci-fi B films. I just love them. I don't know what it is about them, but they're just funnier than hell. And I think the music in them is actually great, you know. And now I think it's because, one, you can see the artwork that's been put behind it. They didn't have all the millions of dollars to make everything so polished. And I think that's a problem with a lot of things. Things are too polished these days, because perfect isn't supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to have flaws. The flaws are what gives it character and what gives it its whole identity. And that's why, you know, even like old films when they used to paint on glass for the backgrounds and all that other stuff. And I even use all my comedy that I grew up with the comedians, you know, from even Jackie Mason. And one day I may actually tell you the story about how I almost killed Jackie Mason, picking him up from one hotel and driving him back to my hotel, and to do the spotlights for him. So yeah, all three of us almost died in the same car. It almost happened. And then I met him again a couple years later at Tower Records when I was working there. And he comes walking in doing an in-store. And he actually tried to sue me because of that. I was 16 at the time, or 17, something like that. And he tried to sue me. He sued the hotel. My dad settled the whole thing and whatever, but that's a wholly different story. He comes into Tower Records to do his in-store. And I had told the people that I worked for it there, say, look, I can't see Jackie. He can't see me. You know, the guy tried to sue me. He's like, and they didn't believe me. They go, no, it can't be true. I go, no, I'm dead serious. I grew up with this stuff. You know, the greatest comedians, I grew up with these people. And so he comes walking to the store. I'm on the other end of the store. And he's doing his interview. All these people are gathered around. I think his album was The World According to Me. And so he comes in, and I'm standing there, and I'm restocking all my CDs and everything in there. And he looks up and he sees me. And we lock eyes. And I look over to him and I go, how you doing, Jackie? And he goes, you. And just his classic, I don't know if you know Jackie Mason, all those people out there who do know him, that you. And it was just like going, and I going, hey, good to see you again. I'm out of here. And I just went straight to the back. Everybody's cracking up. All the stations that were there were wondering what was going on. And it's like, I'm going, look, we're not talking about it, not going to talk about it. But now, years later, but it was because of people like him and all these other great comedians that I also found timing. And I use a lot of that within my own quirkiness within itself, you know, because I'm pretty much a smart ass with a lot of shit. But, you know, so I find holes in things and stuff, you know, so I'll turn things on their heads, you know, memes and stuff. And I will, you know, and I do it kind of like to throw more of a philosophical end to things about, hey, this is not what it's like. I've been through this, and it's, no, you're being a little too flowery about this. You know, let me let you in on some reality here. But I'm not trying to bring it down. I just want you to be aware that, or anybody, that, hey, it's great to think that way, but at the same time, you have to do this, because there are things outside of our control that come in that will slam us if you are not prepared for it. And I think one of the greater lessons that I have learned, and I'm still waiting for this one end of it, is that we prepare for the worst. Everybody does. We always prepare for the worst. That's the greatest advice everybody gives you. But they never give you this other advice. So what happens when the best comes? Are you prepared for it? Nobody is very rare. You see people winning billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars in the lottery, and you hear that they're broke a few years later because they didn't prepare themselves for what could be coming and how to deal with these aspects. And that all ties in with creativity and everything that we do. And as artists, we suffer a lot. We go through a lot. We're homeless, or we're sleeping on somebody's couch, or we're just struggling, or just trying to keep a job, flipping a burger here, or just doing that, and just working in the industry itself, just even be close to something like that. And that was my route. I just wanted to be close, and hopefully I made connections, but they already had connections, or as I was speaking before, they want to keep you where you are because you're good where you're at, and we don't want this. It's not my thing. You're more valuable for me here. And that, of course, causes you to feel you want to go out on your own. And so I'm right now preparing myself for the best. I'm also preparing myself for an extreme worst right now, but our world is what it is, and I'll get through it once again. But this is my focus, and I want to do it on my own terms, but I understand I can't, and that won't happen because I need to compromise. And even if you ask me, I need to work with you. And if I am rigid, you're not going to want to work with me. And I'm not going to work with somebody else who's also that same way. But if a director digs and they're really rigid about what it is they want, and they know what they want, I will give you what you want, because that's what I do. I will give you what you need. I am that protector. But I'll also give you the option of, or you could allow me to be me, and let me put my sound over your vision, and let's see how well that marries, and see what you want to do. Or if you want to combine the two, and if you don't, here you go. I'm not married to it. But if you really want to marry me to that and really get the best out of me, allow me to be me, and I'll give you exactly what you want every single time, and you will love it.
Sorry to interrupt the show, but we wanted to spotlight our award-winning feature film, El Cap Wedding, which tells the true story of the world's first wedding on El Capitan in Yosemite National Park. It's available to stream, rent, or buy right now, so go watch it. We also have an original soundtrack you can listen to wherever you get music. Please help by watching, listening, and going to Rotten Tomatoes to leave a review. And now, back to the show. Great stories, great philosophy and background, and there's a lot of lessons in there, which is going to lead me to asking about some notes for you. But
sure,
just a couple highlights just to respond.
Yes.
Again, going back to the collaboration where you were talking about wanting to read the script. There are so many famous big collaborations between, a writer and director, or an actor and a director, or there's these pairings of wives and husbands who's the producer and the director or something, and the collaboration, they push each other, they complement each other. And especially in art, there's a famous story from Wes Anderson. He uses a lot of the Kinks in all his soundtracks. He loves them.
Oh yeah.
And he said one of his stories was he would go pick up someone in his van, and they would just drive around and talk about scenes or the script or whatever, and people would always be like, wait, didn't we hear this song? Because he would put on mixes and he would play the same song 5 or 10 times in a row, because he wanted to feel I can't concentrate to the whole song the whole time. I'm driving, we're talking, whatever, so I'm in and out of the music, and I need to be able to hear the whole thing. So how do I do that? I have to play it for a half hour, but I also have to feel I'm experiencing talking to someone. This is going to play in a scene where people are talking to each other. So I have to feel I know what it's like to talk to someone and to drive and to be in different places and experience the song in all those different times and locations. Well, how do I do that? Well, the only way is to play it over and over and over again. And also hear different parts of the song. I'm going to only pay attention to the lyrics. And then the next time I'm only paying attention to the drum. And then the next time I'm only paying attention. And every time he would focus on a different part, which would help him see all the depth in the music, and that would create different experiences him to put in different focuses in the scenes of there needs to be more of a breath here. And then the guitar could fill that in as they stare at each other because no one's talking or what have you. Or the song has a flourish, so now we're going to change the energy in the scene. And it's playing with those things together, like you were talking about, like, I'm going to write some stuff based on the script, and I'm going to give you music that might give you like inspiration as you continue to work on it. You know, there's a lot of collaborators like that. I mean, even going all the way back to the spaghetti westerns, I too love like B movies and grindhouse and exploitation and all that stuff. And a lot of this stuff was kind of simple, but they had themes. You know, the hero's theme and the villain's theme, and they would have these little, you know, would come on when the guy. You're like, I know what that means because the sound.
Each character has their own instrument, and that's how I look at that. That's why I want to read the script. But direct me on where it is you want to go, as you were just saying. You know, so I need the direction. I want to know where he's coming in, because as you said, it's like, okay, well, you got the opener, and he came in here, but that's perfect for this particular part of the scene. But the chorus is really good for this over here. You know, so I want the chorus in over this person. This person is, or whatever it is. You know, so yeah. Yeah, no, please.
Two other points. I'm a huge Prince fan, and it reminded me you were talking about like pulling things back. Again, it's a lot easier in all this stuff, you know, being over prepared, you know, going over the top and, you know, bring it down. It's very hard to like build all this stuff up. It's much easier to be like, hey, pull it back a little bit. And one of the famous things is, you know, when Doves Cry, which is a huge hit for Prince, he very famously was like, there's too much. And he just took the bass out of the song. He just pulled it back and said, I'm going to take this out. I'm going to bring this down a little bit. And then it became like, oh, by taking something
definitely genius that way.
Else was left was great. But if he left it in, it might have been too much. And that is something that happens quite often when people are writing scripts. They're writing them long, they're writing them complicated, they're writing them heavy. And then, you know, the joke is you edit a script 3 times. You edit it when you're writing it, you edit it on set, and you edit it in the edit. And so you're quite often taking stuff like, we don't need this line. You know, you know what, you're going to take the scene out. It's too long, or we're going to cut it down, or whatever. But you need to have more.
Yeah.
So that you can then bring it down and make it tight, or what have you. So when you were talking about that, again, there's a parallel there. So it doesn't matter if you're the screenwriter, the director, the editor, the composer. You gotta have plenty. You gotta have more. You gotta have, you know, it's overflowing. So you could say, oh, we have lots of choices here. And the last thing was when you were talking about, you know, sound and picture. The old adage is, you know, if people will forgive poor looking film if it sounds good, but they will not forgive a poor sounding film no matter how good it looks.
Yeah.
And it really is important to have that good music. And when I was in film, so I went to film school in Australia, and it was amazing because when I did my like thesis film, there was a guy sitting in the editing bay with one of the students, and they were really deep in conversation, but they had the door open, and I was kind of like walking past, and I heard him say something about a cue or whatever, and I was like, hey, are you an engineer? Like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm a composer. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah. He's like, he's writing a score for my film. You know, we're making like 20-minute shorts for senior thesis or whatever. And I was like, can I meet with you afterwards? And he was like, sure. He's like, I'll be done in like an hour or whatever. So I basically just like hung out waiting for him to get done. And I said, you know, next semester, I'm doing my thesis film. And this is like the genre. And these are kind of my 2 big inspirations as far as like film scores. And I was like, you know, it's A plus B. And he was like, oh my God. He's like, that sounds amazing. And he's like, well, let me write this. When are you shooting? And I was like, oh, it's like 3 months from now or whatever. He's like, okay. He's like, get back in touch with me when you have something. We'll sit down and go through it. So I had the opportunity when I was young and just starting out to sit and just, here's the rough cut, and have him say, oh, you know, when you have this shot and you cut to there, that's when I could put a sting in. It would be really great. And so I was thinking of, well, maybe he could write a couple pieces of music or like have a score and I can cut it up And he wasn't thinking that way at all. He's thinking, okay, these are the pieces I'm going to make for the different scenes. These are the little things I'm going to put for the different shots. Not even like a piece of music, just like a sizzle, you know, to heighten the moment. Where, like in the Eastwood films, you have the guitar flourish or the famous wah 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 wah, you know, stuff like that. And it comes in, you're like, you know, you're like, oh fuck, that's not even a song. That's just a moment.
Yeah, I think it's like even with Aliens.
I would never have known that, but because I did, ever since then going forward, I'm like, it's what you see and what you hear. It's like you said, thinking in terms of music or seeing the music. A lot of people, I think, get stuck in what are the words in the script or what do I see in the edit? And they don't think about what they're hearing. And that's why it's so important to talk to people like you so we can get those stories and be entertained and figure out how you got into it and where you ended up from where you started and the different inspirations and ideas you have and all that's great. But it's also really the teaching of like, oh man, I never thought about maybe I should find someone to collaborate with to make music, or maybe I should send someone the script like while I'm developing it so they can help elevate this by giving me other ideas by looking at it through another lens. So all that to say, what might be some good notes for you to share with either hard-won lessons like, oh, I wish I knew this, other people you might find it valuable, but also what are some good notes for people to like work with someone like you? How do they go about finding a composer or collaborating with one or hiring one if they've never done that before or they don't know how to even go about that? How might they start? So what might be some good notes for both of those things from you?
How would they find me? Well, one, I'm literally everywhere all over the internet. That's the one thing they do have to. Now, that's the unfortunate for myself and for literally everybody else. We have to wade through the thousands and actually literally not even thousands, millions of people. And you literally have to find that. I think the ones that you look for are the ones you've never heard of. Because usually they're the ones, because I found that out it's through time. The best people are the ones you have never heard of. The best musicians are the ones you've never heard before. You go to some village off in some far off land somewhere, and you hear this guy playing guitar, or they're playing a horn, they're playing a violin, or whatever it is, instrument that they're playing. And you're like, oh my God. You know, if you were in America or you were in Europe and somebody was, you would be, you're God. You're better than the best that I've ever heard in my life. I'm not saying I am, but I'm saying, but you find them in the weirdest places, and it's those places. It's the one, if you're looking at the one who has the most clicks and has the most likes and look at all that, you're probably looking at somebody who's just a cookie cutter, more or less. I'm not going to say they all are. That is not fair. They're not. There's a lot of really great ones who have that thing going for it. But it's only maybe about 5%, if that. If you want to find people like me, one, shows like this. Two, since I am searching for these people myself, we're going to run into each other in some way. But I think it's just like you go to the YouTubes and you just like go through and actually just type in composer, and like go to YouTube and type in composers or whatever, and or just some shorts, and you just go through it. And I think the ones who have the least likes, and that one that says, hey, look, I'm a composer, but yet that's the one I think you really need to pay attention to, because even when I'm going through stuff like that, I see the one with a bunch of likes and I click on them and I'm going, why? And I'm asking myself, why? It's formula. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's formula. It sounds literally like everybody else's. I couldn't distinguish this from anybody else, so. And then I would click on the one that doesn't have many likes on it. And it's like very few. And I'm going, holy crap, this is really good. This is good. And I'm like, yeah, I could use a little bit better on the mixing, or their mixing is far superior to what I just listened to with the person who has like 1 million clicks. And I'm like, so why is this one making money? And why is this one working? And why is this one not? And it's because everybody always goes to the more popular, the more visible. You have to go to the ones who are not visible. And how do you find not visible? Well, the numbers are right there on your computer screen, because it's where we're all looking. We're looking at likes. We're looking at the most popular ones. Don't look at the most popular, because that's the one everybody is. Because in our world today, the most popular stuff that we're listening to, everybody's complaining about, like, because there's no soul to it. Everything sounds the same. Everybody's like pumping it out left and right, pushing a button, putting a prompt. And you got to find the one who does natural music. And that's the person you got to look at. That's how you could find me. If you really want to find me, I specifically say it within my thing, AI free music. I experienced symphonies. I experienced life. I've been through the hardest of hard. You can't play the blues without ever have been through the worst of the worst. You can't. It's impossible. I've heard people who've been born rich, and I would hear them play the blues, and they're good friends of mine. And I'm like, yeah, you got the notes down, but I can't feel it. Then I play it, and they're like, oh, wow, it's something different. You could actually feel it. Or if somebody else who's been through it, you feel it. And it's the same thing. You have to feel it. And you have to just put aside all of the thing and just clear your mind and understand that this is a craft. It needs to be something that is complementing you. Does it complement you? Do I complement? Is there something inside there that you're listening to, not just mine, but anybody? Is there something in there? It's like, wow, I really like the way they're doing this particular aspect of this. That would go great over my stuff, or great with my stuff. So that's like a really hard question, Shane. I mean, I wish I could answer that, because the best I could say is what I just said is go to, and like I said, there are millions of us. So I guess you just have to do a search of AI free music. And I'm sure I'll pop up there, probably some up near the top or something like that. And, or you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on SoundCloud. It's either G's, which is Greg Schwab. And I know there's a lot of other people out there who are using G's, particularly in the rap and whatever, in that type of world, because, but those are my initials, and you can't do that. But I also hijacked it because when you asked me that question, and I was going to answer, I was emailing you just as I got that email from you, and I was going to email you back on that. And then you emailed me again right after I was already typing it in. And I'm like, and I said, wait a second. And then when you saw that, and I'm like, yes. And the reason why I did that is because I wanted to be found. And how do you find me? And I couldn't figure out how. What can I do? What's my shtick? What's the shtick that I need to do in order to get out there and actually make money doing what I love doing and what I do best, and what I could bring a quality to, and bring the top quality, not just any quality. I could give you the best, and you'll make me better by directing me and telling me no. And I'll go, nope, and I'll go in and I'll do it better. Okay, fine. And I hijacked G's. And what do we say every single day when something screws up? Geez, what in the world are you doing? Jesus, God dang it, what is going on? Geez, man, what is up with you? We say it all the time. So every time you now say geez, it's me. And and that's a worldwide thing. So people who have heard geez and now connect that to me, and who have seen me, you'll never be able to say geez again without, man. And because now it's going to become, shoot. All right, whatever. And that's why that one stick I have of that one video you saw when I ask, where the character asks, what does my band Us have to do with this? When he said Jesus. And I'm like, because that's my backup band, G's with Us. So I wanted to play off of this with the biggest name history has ever known. And so I guess that's how you find me. Just remember G's and look for G's, and don't look for Jesus. You can look for Jesus. I don't know if you ever find him, but I'm sure he's with us if that's what you believe. And if I'm stepping all over it, oh, well, I guess we'll talk about that later in the next 30 years or so, but right now, today, that's me, so And
Well, I think that's brilliant. I love that. And that was one of the things even before meeting you, just that exchange and seeing your stuff. And I was like, I, I like you said earlier about being a smartass. I was like, I like people who, they can clean up and be professional and do the work, but they can also like put their hair down and be like, okay, we're going to fuck around a little bit and have a good time. Like it's, and to go back to something you said the beginning, it's really a marriage of, I mean, they call it show business, not show friends. You can work with your friends and you can have a great time, but at the end of the day, like we gotta make the money to finish the project, or have the money to make the project, or we gotta have this project be successful before we can do the next project. So it really is a marriage, but even just within it, it's an art and a science. You gotta have that creativity, but you gotta know how to use the stuff to make it.
gotta know your craft.
Yeah. And one last thing, you were talking about the blues, and it reminded me, I don't know if you know this, this is my favorite quote from B.B. King. He said, the blues are when you can play one note and people go, mm-hmm.
Yep.
They're like, oh, I know.
Yeah.
I felt that, or I can feel that. And you just need the one note, and they're like, it gets them.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned
that was
earlier,
yeah.
Shredding is great. It's cool. Wow, it's so impressive. But B.B. King played one note, and you're like, oh, man.
Yeah, don't get me started on shredders. I call them diarrhea of the fingers. So, I mean, it's great. It's excellent technique, and I cannot take that away. I can't do that. And I didn't, if I needed to learn something that needed something, if I was composing something that needed that, I'm going to be spending the next 3 weeks teaching myself how to do that. And I have taught myself how to play country. I've never learned how to play country. Oh, I have to get this country twang, so I have to get this Pink Floyd thing out of my head and out of my fingers, and I have to get this under my fingers. And yeah, know your craft, know everything. Take what you have right now. But as you said, it's not just a collaboration, but we have to be serious about what it is we're doing. Because they say it's theory. It's only a theory. It's not fact. So if you treat theory like fact, you're going to run into walls every single time. I've had songwriting partners in the past where they told me, I can't play with you because you can't play other people's music. And I looked at them and I said, well, I can't play with you because you cannot come up with something from here. You're only coming from here. I need you to come from here because I can't feel you. You're too mechanical. And that's how it comes off. And I would imagine that comes off with filmmakers, with everybody else. If it's mechanical, it shows. If you're not thinking about it and you're just letting it flow, that's what art is. It's no thought. It's just doing. And if everybody knows what they do instinctively and what each person's job is within the climate of what we are and who we are and where you're standing within each one, and it's a dance. You're literally dancing with each other, and you wait for your moment. It's a hoedown. You wait for your moment to jump in and to jump out and to jump back in and to move over here or to move over there, and know when to say something and know when not to say something. And as you said, at the end of the day, a little joke here and there could help break up the entire monotony, especially when things get too serious and people are taking it too serious. Because once again, it's only art. Yes, there's a lot of money involved. There's a ton of money involved. In fact, we got deadlines and it's a stress. But at the same time, what's really going to happen? Maybe you might not eat for a day. Maybe you might lose your house, but you're still breathing. But that's the worst case scenario. And we want the best. And so, yeah, you get down to it. And I'm really hard-nosed when it comes down to getting things done. And when I'm there are people who love me and there are people who hate me. And the people who hate me, the feelings, I really don't think about them. Only because they made my life hell. And so in turn, they didn't like me because I moved faster than them. I was more precise than they were. They wanted to kick back. I made them look bad. And so I'm like, oh, well, tough. This is just my natural pace. If you can't keep up with my natural pace. And then those people who love me, they have that pace. They understand. We gelled together because we knew our craft. Even people I couldn't get along with personally on a personal level, it's like, dude, I can't stand you. I don't like the way you talk. I don't like what you like. I just don't like you. But when I'm working with you, you know when to do it, when not to do it. We work around each other. We know when to help each other. We know when to back off. We don't need to talk to each other. We don't need to be personal. We just need to know our jobs. And we got along great. And at the end of everything, when it was all said and done, we're friends. And I've had people who go off to be bigger than what they were. They started off hating me at first, but I'm like, you're a basic training right now there, son. And I'm teaching you how to do this. If you want to survive, you're going to listen. If you don't want to listen, then fine. That's up to you. But go for it. And those people, and they stuck it through. And then when they finally got it, and that's when I lay back. Good, you got it. Now I can finally just like kick back. And now we can actually enjoy ourselves and actually do this. You finally got it. The ones who don't, and you keep causing me problems, I'm going to cause you bigger problems. And only because you're not getting it, or you're working against the grain, or I got a square peg that that somebody asked me to fit into a round hole. And I'm like, why didn't you talk to me about this first? Because this person is not going to work. I'm telling you right now. Or it's going to work. And that's the experience of going through that. And I guess it's also the same thing as you were explaining about when people are writing, and when you are going through the script on work. And when your guy was in Australia, when he was telling you, oh yeah, maybe we could just put a little thing right over in here, which will help elevate something, or give you a cue to the cue that something bad's about ready to happen, or that this is that person. Every time you hear that little chime, or you hear that little low note, no matter how imperceptible it is, it's still there, but yet you're like, something's about ready to happen, but yet you could barely hear it, but it's there. And that's what I love. That's what I want to see, because I want to see your vision. And the more I know about what it is your vision is, the more I understand it, and the more I could give you for what it is you want. And if you are looking at me to going, I have no idea what I want on this, help me. And the best way for me to do that is for me to be there at the very beginning, and to sit down with you, as you said, sitting there and listening to the music. Listen to that song 30 times. I'll listen to my same music 100 times over. Literally just going and watching different things and just watching videos, or even with the TV on in the background, and all of a sudden I'll hear something and I'll go, oh, that's what I'm looking for. That's what needs to go right there. And I think that's that whole circle. It's not even a circle, it's a spiral. Because if it's a circle, you end up back in the beginning again, and you never want to end up back at square one. You want to keep elevating. And so whenever we say running in circles, now we're running in spirals. And so when we do that, we're elevating ourselves, and you drag everybody else with it. It's like, and if they don't want to be dragged with it, then that's fine. I'm going to keep going. But I'll also help you, and I'll carry you if I need to. But I really, really love the fact that other creatives outside of my scope who know more about something else than me, I want to know. I want to learn, and I just want to go, okay, now I have a better understanding. Even though I never done it, but at least now I understand, and then I can at least speak the language and be able to explain myself. And you could explain something to me about going, oh, you could now say 2 words instead of saying like 5 pages worth of words to me to finally get it, and I learn fast. It takes me sometimes 5 minutes a day. I wrote a full symphony just the other day, called a hard fought return. Full symphony, 16 hours, full strings, full brass, full everything. I just wrote the whole entire thing, mixed it, and dropped it out there in 16 hours. I have not done a full orchestral piece, and this is literally like an 80-piece orchestrated piece that I didn't, and don't know where it came from, don't know why. I just wrote a cue for a horror. I wrote a bunch of cues for a horror. Then I wrote this little jingly thing, and then wrote this it's kind of a circus type atmosphere. within this piece. And now I'm working on this thrash metal piece right after I just wrote this whole full symphony thing. So it doesn't matter what it is. I don't have a niche. I could write anything. I could even write hip hop. Just let me listen to it for a while. I'll map it out. I'll understand, because I understand it. I get it. You know, because I'm an artist. I get it. I hear it. I see where you're coming from. I may not understand the actual thing that they went through, and the understanding of that I don't get, but I understand how the timing of the music in itself works, and where to come in and where to come out. And then I'll actually want to find a rapper to actually come in and actually do that other aspect for me. I will not rap. Will not do that. I'll go to Spice before I even go do that. Just put down some kind of place marker, just going, hey, here, you know. But what I'm saying is that it doesn't matter if it's the smallest. Oh, I just need a couple of notes, you know, just here and there, and that's it. Just one instrument, 3 notes on a flute, and that's your entire soundtrack. Sure, I'll make it the 3 best notes you've ever heard. Like you said, play one note. That one note, and it's just how he moves his finger on that note and that tremolo on that, just a little bit of, and that's all it takes. Neil Young, the greatest one-note guitarist that has ever lived, all these guitar solos, one note. And it's like, dude, I can't even do that. I have tried playing his guitar solos. Like I said, I don't like learning guitar solos, but who's simpler to try to learn a guitar solo from than from Neil Young? And it's one note, and it's the hardest thing in the world you could possibly try to do. Yngwie Malmsteen, okay, fine. I could learn how to play that, and I got that. That's not a problem. Playing that one note is, and that takes a long time. And it's just the way he does it, and we can't copy that. I can only tremolo the way I tremolo, so it'll never sound like that. I can maybe get close. There are other artists that could emulate anybody. I'm not that artist. I'm me. And I want my personality to show through, and I want that hopefully gels with what is writing. And if you don't want my personality in it, I could actually take it away and just get down to, okay, you just want bare bones formula. All right, fine. I'll go ABC. Here. 15-second mark, 15-second mark, 15-second mark. Okay, fine. That's how you chopped everything up. There you go. Everything will fall on time. Everything will fall exactly where you need it. But if you allowed me just a little bit of room to move, I could actually add a little bit better character to that and lift this up a little more, because I don't have the heart to tell you that maybe your scene is not strong enough, or what you're asking me to write is too weak for what you got going on, and it's not going to elevate it to the point you want, which, once again, where you were saying, yeah, a bad soundtrack will lead to, no matter how good the film is, you know, like Aliens, like the egg scene. You know, when I listen to that, that's like the greatest piece of music. And I actually wrote a piece like that a while back, and I got to find it again. And I studied that piece. Why is it so spooky when he's just using just a clarinet and these other, not even, yeah, and a xylophone and just a little clacks and a little this and that. And I'm just like, there's like nothing here, but it's the most musical thing I've ever heard. Well, not ever heard, but it's so musical, but yet so eerie. And I want to capture those things because I love eerie stuff. I want to make you feel scared. I want to make you feel happy. And I do that with people when I'm sitting and talking with people. And so I think I speak the way I write my music in a lot of ways. Because I do like make people laugh. I love making my son laugh. I've been making that kid laugh ever since he was 1, and I don't stop. I'm always goofing with him, always making him think, and I love making people think. Not in bad ways, just to make you think and to maybe look at things in a totally different way. And it helps me learn, helps me see where I stand, helps me see where I have to improve on myself. And because it's always about improving yourself. And I don't want to do harm to nothing. I just want to do better for everybody else. And I don't do this for me. Yes, it makes me feel good. It's what I am. It's constantly running through my head. No matter where I am, no matter what I'm doing, I'm never without my music. It's always playing in my head every single time. And I'm like, there's so many pieces of music I have never written because I don't have time, because it's all up here, but I'll come back to it and I'll go, oh, yeah, I like that. And I'll just like go to sleep to it, or I'll wake up to it, or whatever. And it's for me, but I want to do it for you. I want to do it for everybody, because I want to help. If I'm doing it just for myself, things never seem to work out when I do things for myself. No matter what it is I do, if I'm doing it for myself, something's going wrong. Something is going to go wrong. But if I do it for somebody else, there's something magical about it for some reason. And I like it. And it makes me feel better, because I feel selfish when I'm doing things for myself, and I don't like that feeling. When I'm feeling that way, I'm like, no, that's not quite, no, this is not going to work. This is selfish, it's self-indulgent, and I don't want to be self-indulgent. I don't want to be that person. And I know I'm not that person. And I really don't know where else to go with that, honestly.
I was going to jump in on that anyway, because we were talking about being collaborative earlier, and it's really about reminding ourselves, like, we're here for this project. And you really do have to say, like, what can I do to make the project better? It's about me looking for ways to help everyone, to give the best ideas, to push each other to be our best. It's not about like, all right, I'm going to walk away and everyone's going to be like, oh, you're the hero, you saved us. Like, no, it's about, we're here for the show. We're here for the project. We're here for the film. We're here for the, so what you were just talking about is really important for people. Again, it's collaborative. You're part of something bigger than yourself. Every piece is important. Like you take a piece out of an engine, it's not going to work. But how great is it when that engine purrs, because everything's in there synchronously working together. So I think that's really important. And again, you went on a couple like stories here, but there's a lot of learning and wisdom and education in the things you said too. And I feel like this is an episode that I'll want to listen to. Not just like, oh, is in it, but I want to like have that like once removed, like listening to it, because there's so much depth in here. I did want to speak on one other thing, and then we'll have to wrap up here in a few minutes. But you mentioned the mastery of like people doing one notes, like, look for that. Like you said, like find the people that you're like, wow, he doesn't have to do this whole big thing. He can just do one note. Nobody else can do that. That's where the people are doing the like amazing things, the singular things.
Yes.
And that's what separates people apart. The other thing I just wanted to mention is, no matter how much we've done or how little, it's really allowing yourself to create the thing you want to do. And one of the things I like in doing on the show and like interviewing people is trying to inspire people and have them learn and have them feel like, oh, maybe my little short could have original music. Maybe I could dare to think beyond my initial like small idea. Maybe I could get a composer. Oh, wow. Maybe I could collaborate with someone. Oh, I never thought I could do that. Or I didn't realize that maybe I could make music, or maybe I could play guitar, or any of those things. So listening to people who talk about the hard times or the near misses or the whatever, it's like, you're, like you said, you're still breathing, you're doing it, you're making music, it's out there, you're collaborating, you have this thing that you can't turn off. It's like a superpower. Like, we all have to find that thing in us and then get out of our own way so we can allow it to be there. I heard someone say once, no one can read your book if you don't read it. So I hope that they're inspired when they hear stories like yours, and that they get the lessons, because there's a lot of lessons in there too.
A lot of life.
They can like move forward in making the art, whatever it is, and putting it out into the world, because that's, even once removed, going to influence somebody else. So I encourage people to, like you said, put composer in, put non-AI music in, like do some searches, discover some new people, allow that to then unlock your creativity, much less look for your particular music. You mentioned SoundCloud, YouTube, like all that stuff. This is going to lead into the outro in a minute, but I always tell people, it's easy to find this as a podcast, but I put this up on YouTube because I want people to, we're talking about filmmaking. It's visual. I want you to see who's talking to me. I want you to see, that if they reference something, I'm like, oh, here's the poster of the movie they were talking about.
That you do this.
Yeah. So make sure you watch this so you can see G's, so you can see who he is, so you can see the screenshots of the, like, oh, that's where I go to listen to his music. Great. It's great. We're talking about music today. So listen to the podcast. It's easy to do while you're doing something else. But watch the show. See the people. That way, when you go to a social or something, you're like, oh, that's the face of the guy that I saw on the show. That's how I know this is the right person. And then, reach out. I always encourage people, this is, like we were saying off mic at the beginning, it's a small world. And the world's big, but these individual things, like, oh, how did you connect? Like, oh, well, we met on LinkedIn, or we met on email, or we met because I saw the thing and I reached out. Like, forging those relationships, you never know what's going to happen with those things. So as much as it's great to think of collaborating, like, I'm a filmmaker, I need a composer, it's just larger than that. Like, collaborate with people in your life, because, it's like that old thing of team. Like, there's no I in team, but there's an M and an E for,
Right.
Yeah. I am a part of the team. Yeah. We together are going to do stuff. So I found this as a fascinating and inspirational talk. I'm so glad that you came in and just were like, let me loose. I'm just going to go. That was awesome.
No, I thank you, because I needed something like this. I have never done anything like this before, and nobody has ever invited me to do anything like this. And I've always wondered, how do people do this? But you also just mentioned on another thing, and I really do want to say this. When anybody out there who is looking for a composer, or you think, oh, it's going to cost me money. Yes, a lot of us are overlooked because nobody ever thinks about, oh, we need money for the composer. Well, let's just get some bunch of crap, and you're going to get crap. That's it. But here's the thing. I will work with your budget. If you only have, and believe me, I know budgets. I've worked in film for over 35 years. And I've worked in production, I've worked on set, I have worked in the warehouses, I've worked on every aspect. I know how it works. I know where the money is. I know who has money and who doesn't have money and who's lying about it. And so I know what it's costing you. I know exactly what it's costing you to do what you're doing. And if you tell me you only have $5,000 to make your little short, or you're doing a student film and you only have X amount of money, you know what? You're going to get, just talk to me, tell me the truth, and I'm going to go, all right, tell you what, just give me a couple $100 and I'm going to give you a $5,000 score for your 5-minute film, because people will pay $5,000 for this, for their 30-second spot. And I'm going to give it to you for $200. And because I'm going to work with you, because I want your work to get out there. You're just getting out there, and any bit of work is work. Anytime you're seen, it's work. You're seen, you're heard. And so it doesn't matter how small or how big it is. In fact, it's the small things that actually get you noticed on a lot of aspects and a lot of things. So sometimes the bigger you go on, the bigger spotlight, yeah, you got seen, but then by the time people get over there, they're like going, oh, you're not really what I thought. And then, but that little thing, you just wrote a 5-second spot, but what you wrote right there is awesome. I want you to do. You could expand. I could expand on anything. You ask me to expand on it, I'll expand. I would hope that, I pray one day somebody goes, hey, that little piece you wrote right there, can you? Yes. I've been dying to expand on that. But if I do it now, I'll spend the next 4 months working only on that and make it into a 3-hour-long symphony. But I don't have time to do that because I need to be writing for that, because I'm trying to find other work. So if I had $1 million sitting in the bank account, yeah, I would do that. I would sit there and write a full on thing and be Mozart for you. If that's what you need from me and if I want from myself, that's what I'll give you. But what I'm saying for everybody else out there, don't be afraid. But the one thing is, please don't ask us to do it for free. Now, I understand there are times, there are things where, okay, you're doing something for free, they're doing something for free, this is a favor on the other end, this is a favor on the other end. I get that, been there, done that a million times over. And I will look at your thing, and if I feel it's worth doing it, and you approach me in that right way, and going, hey, I will donate my time. I will donate it to you. But you have to approach me within the right way, within that aspect of what it is you're trying to do. Or if it's just like, yeah, I'm just going to, no, that's not going to work. Come at me in a nice professional manner. Show me what it is you're doing, why you're doing it, what it is you've gone through, and where it is you're trying to get to. And I will do anything that I possibly can to help you get there, even though I haven't been there, but I will help. I've had enough experience to know over the years to understand what it is you're talking about and say, look, don't run down that path. I'm telling you right now, if you run down that path, it's a dead end. You're going to fall. Go this way, take this turn right over here, and then turn right over here, and you got it. And then talk to me later, and if you ever need anything else, contact me. I'll tell you. I'll give you free advice. I don't want to. I see so many people on LinkedIn, and I know you see it too, is all these coaches, here, I will get you this, and I will help you get more exposure over here. Just pay me this and just pay me that. And it's just like, are you serious? Say that to an actor. Say that to an actor, that they have to pay to get an audition, that they have to pay to be in a sync warehouse. That William Morris doesn't. No, they're out there hunting down jobs for their clients. And for some strange reason, that's not the same thing with that. And it's with music, but it should be. And at least for composers, for film, particularly for film or for media, there should be something where, but so they always want money from us. And I'm like, I will give you my advice for free because you're a fellow artist. You're in my boat. We're going to the same place. We do the same thing. So why do I want to charge you for advice that I've lived through and that I know and knowledge? You're not going to my school. I don't have a school. I'm just a human being. The only thing I want to be paid for is the work that I do, that I have earned. And if I earn the money, then I am happy and can look at myself and go, I put an honest days in. But I'm not going to charge you for advice or just some off the string thing. It's just like, just ask me and I'll tell you. But other people want, oh yeah, I'll give you this much, but you have to pay for this. And I'm like, no. Come to me with anything that you want. I'll work with you on it. If you only got $5, buy me lunch then. I'm hungry. So I'll write you out 30-second piece, buy me lunch, and we'll call it a deal as long as my name is on there and we're good with that. And you send me a copy of whatever it is you have. I am good. And I am happy to have helped because now you're going forward. You have something to show and you're happy. And that makes me happy. And if you're not happy, I'm going to try to fix it somehow, some way. And if I can't, I'll bring you to somebody or find somebody who can make you happy about it. And that's the best I can do. It's just be me and help. I am the guardian. I am what it is. It's what I do. It's in my name. And I was born this way. I was born a musician. My mom noticed it the first time when I was in it. It was Christmas time. The last thing I'll say, it was Christmas time, and it was a little xylophone. I think I was like 5 or something, and Jingle Bells was playing on the over the intercom system. And I saw this little xylophone, and I started playing Jingle Bells with it. I figured it out, and I started saying, my mom saw that, and then it was right after that. It's where they got me into music and everything like that, and it started from there, and it hasn't stopped since, and it won't stop until my last breath. And so I won't copy anybody. I'm just going to be me, and that's what you get is me, and something completely original, completely your own. I will tailor it just for you. Your sound, you tell me what direction I'll run, you give me the direction, I will follow that direction because I'm another actor, but I'm the actor that is heard in a different way. And if you let me just run free and wild and it still works for you, and I nailed it for you, and I got every beat and everything down, and you made your proper edits and it's perfect for you, then that's even better for me, because now I'm like going, wow, not only did that person make that film and they wrote that film, I actually am now part of that film in a totally different way, because I am now part of the soul, as opposed to being the composer who wrote for the film. I am now the soul of that film, along with the other souls that wrote it, directed, and acted in it. And I'm just another actor, or I'm just another hired hand that just put that in. And that's fine too, because I will eat that up, because I will still look at that and be proud and going, I'm proud of that. I look at that. Look what I just did. And but I also don't want to toot my horn, because at the same time, I just want to enjoy the sun. I just want to sit under a tree and relax and not be bothered by anybody, and just have my guitar in my lap and just enjoy life, and I guess that's it. So that's where G's comes in. So G's.
Well, I love the little story about you being a kid and being able to play along. That just shows you've been a musician your whole life. You're probably musician as soon as you were born, or even before you were born. You came out as a musician. And I also want people to really take to heart that that's a very generous offer, to work with people, to mentor people, to help people. I hope people will take advantage of that and reach out to you. It is always no if you don't ask. And sometimes people feel like, whether it's imposter syndrome or anything, again, they stand their own way. Like, allow yourself to dare. Like, what if they say yes? What if they answer you? What if they end up working with you? You never will have that happen if you opt yourself out. So I'm going to encourage everyone who just heard that to look G's up, at least listen to the music, but reach out, because the collaboration, the art, the project, everything else is on the other side of that. A lot of people talk about like what's on the other side of your fear. And that's something you talked about in passing earlier. Like, people think about, well, worst case scenario, but they don't think or prep for the best case scenario. And if that ever comes along, to your point of like the people who win the lottery and get broke again, like, you have to be ready for it to work out.
Yeah.
Whether it's G's or anyone else, think of, okay, if it doesn't work out, what do I do? But what if it does work out? Then what do we do? I think that's a great thing to end on. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Shane.
Very entertaining for me. I got a lot out of it, so I hope the listeners love it. Go check out his work. I'm going to put all the links in, so it'll be in the show notes. So if you're listening to the podcast, you'll see it. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be on the screen. Tune in next month for another episode. I don't know if it'll be more entertaining than this. This is one of the highlights for me.
Well, I mean, thank you so much for having me. I mean, this was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun today. It did me a lot of good. I mean, I'm so happy to have met you, and it's an honor, and I hope that we can hopefully work later on in time, and actually maybe even do this again. I am more than happy to do it if you want to help give advice, because I am a bit of a philosopher, as you probably noticed. I do a little wise end things, So I love history, so I'm a history buff, and love Sun Tzu, Musashi, if you guys know who that is. But yeah, no, thank you very much for having me. This was so much fun. Thank you. And again, congratulations on your film. And
thank you.
That's so much. And I really enjoyed that. Really enjoy your stuff.
Well, as I was saying, thank you all for being here. Thanks for liking, subscribing, sharing, all the things. And we'll see you on the next episode of Film Notes. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support the show, please click on the link below. You can also contact me at my website if you have any questions about filmmaking or anything else. Off to the side, you'll see a couple of my books, Film Notes and the Film Notes Workbook. I encourage you to check those out if you'd like to learn more about filmmaking. See you on the next episode.
Scene 1, Apple, take 1.